Hey there, sorry. A lot of moving pieces here today. A lot of things going on, so. Okay. I forgot. I gotta just made it under the wire for Nam. So. And maybe a little laggy. Last week, it took a minute for people to start to show up. It was kind of weird. Um, Okay, let's see what we have. All right, so we're gonna. Wow, it's still only a couple people here. Hey, Sam. Yeah, it's good. It's morning here. It's cold. Still cold. We still haven't had a day over 80 yet this year. Usually we'd have a couple weeks over 90 by now. I don't think we've hit 80 yet this year. And it's April. No, it's March. And we're not going to get, next 10 days, we're not going to get anything. Just more rain. And the governor got rid of the drought restrictions for the state. They eased them, whatever that means. Hey, Dan, what's going on? God bless you too, buddy. No drought. No, in fact, the opposite. Probably like, hey, can you all flush your toilets like a bunch so that we can empty some of these reservoirs? Because those reservoirs are filling up fast. I mean, it's just, I've kind of seen it. I've lived in California for 40 years now. And every time we have a drought, it's like, then we have a year of insane amount of rain. And we gave the state something like $8 billion or something in bond issues, like 9 years ago, and they still haven't built any new reservoirs with it. That was what they were supposed to do with that money, because 95% of the rainwater just goes in the ocean, which is totally fine. Hey, Larry Byrne, what's going on? I'm doing good. Just kind of crazy busy, and which is good. A lot of snow in the mountains up there. Yeah, a lot of snow. Holy cow. They had an avalanche in Palm Springs. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, they had an avalanche in Palm Springs. Hey, Sadie, what's going on? Yeah, no more putting bricks on the toilet. Yeah, we've never done it. We have low flows, so um, I think I think you have to to sell to, we bought this house 4 years ago. So in California, if you put your house on the market, you have to have low flows. So that's one of the things, one of the rules. They don't do inspections like they do on apartment buildings. But okay, everybody's starting to show up now. We're going to talk about walking bass lines. We're going to combine chords and bass lines. So we're going to be like a one-man band. I think it's going to be pretty easy, but I'm going to teach you how to do it. Again, my favorite comment that I've gotten ever, I think, was that someone said, I love your channel. You don't teach how to play music. You teach how to make music. And, that's definitely... I feel like, okay, and I've talked about this before. I'm a Christian. I believe in God, and I believe we were made in the image of God, and God is very creative. Created this world. Look at all the animals. Look at all the trees. Look at all the flowers. Look at all the variety. And we still haven't even discovered probably 1/10 of all the stuff that's out there that's been, that's in nature. And that creative energy is in us. And so I feel like the way I teach how to play guitar, it kind of plays to that whole getting that flow coming out of you. That's, I think, completely in everyone's DNA. I mean, my mom was a mom, but she was super creative. You can be creative in any endeavor. You don't have to be. Thank God we're not all musicians or actors, or we'd all be starving to death. So, not everybody can do what I do, but doesn't mean you can't be creative in either your spare time or even in your job. I mean, I'm getting low on coffee, so I'm going to try to conserve my coffee. I've got a coffee drought, so I have to have low flow on my my Starbucks cup. Anyway, that's what I think. And David, did you say something? Yeah, the title's way down there. Walking bass lines. So we're going to talk about getting fish to walk on lines. Where you're not moving. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we're getting okay. Everybody's showing up pretty quick now. It was like, where was everybody? Sorry, I was late. I was getting ready, and let's say nature called. I was like, dang it, and I don't want to sit here for 2 hours in agony. So I had to more TMI, right? More information than you need to know. Bruce, I saw that comment, the one you texted me about, basically the comment was, hey, can you edit your live streams down to just the lessons where you're not doing all the interplay and everything? I'm not going to do that. That would require me having to watch every one of those. But people do, and I always approve the comment if people want to say, hey, the lesson starts in earnest at this point, because you can put a timestamp in the comment, and then if people click on it, it goes right to that. But sometimes, and I know it's like, oh, I want to learn about this, but I don't want to watch a 2-hour video. I totally 100% get that. So any of you that do that, or anyone that does it watching this later, just know I appreciate that you do that. And you can, and some of me, Bruce, you've even done, basically I stop at this point. Usually at some point I put the guitar down and we just start talking. And so know that this live stream is more for me than for you guys, because I'm kind of a people person, and I have a very solitary job. A job that 40 years ago when I moved to Los Angeles was anything but a solitary job. To do studio work back in the day, you were in a room with a lot of other musicians. And so you had to be kind of a people person. If you were a Debbie Downer or something, you were not going to be, even if you were the best guitar player in town, they're not going to call you. If you were gossipy, if you were angry, I don't know, if you whatever, if you got tudes, you got attitudes, you're gonna have a problem getting called for stuff. And that's why most studio musicians, especially back in the day, they always had a joke at the ready, or always just kind of good times, just having fun. And why not? It's a fun job. So Larry's saying don't change that. I join. Yeah, and the other thing is, if I did edit those, it would be like, okay, once they're edited, they're edited. We can't get that banter before and after back. I mean, I suppose somebody could download them, re-upload them. I could have somebody else do it for me. If I was making a lot of money on my YouTube channel, I would. If that was my only focus, then I might have an assistant that would be doing that kind of thing. And then that would be kind of cool to have two options, right? But if I was doing YouTube full time, I would still do live stream, but I would be most of these lessons would be more like 10-minute videos or something like that, or a series or something. Well, definitely series. We've definitely done things that would take more than 10 minutes to go over. I appreciate that, Orville. Yeah, and you can control. That's right, Sam. And so if you're watching now and you're like, "Oh, Tom, get to it," you can control the speed. So you can speak to me up really fast. So I'm talking like this, And then you can slow me down. Uh, Alex once walked in on one of his buddies and he was watching one of my videos at like 2 times speed. I don't know why, but he was just watching me on his computer at double speed. But yeah, and that can get you to that point where, okay, Tom's talking about the lesson or whatever. Maybe what I can do is when I'm about to teach, I'll do this. And if you see that, then you know it's time. It's time to you've hit the right spot in the video. So yeah, and I haven't done dedicated videos as often, Gary, as I used to. Um, Mainly because I'm so busy with work, um, and also it's well, I clearly don't have a trouble talking about something. I am going to do a video. I'm going to shoot it next week. That I'm going to do mandolin for guitar players. So I'm going to I'm going to teach a little mandolin lesson from a guitar player's perspective to make it a little easier to kind of get that instrument up to speed, to learn how to play it. And it's such a great instrument. I love playing mandolin. It's really fun. In fact, I don't remember if Joe and I talked about it on camera, but he just recently kind of got a mandolin, nice mandolin, like a nice Gibson mandolin, and he's just loving it. And yeah, because I think back in the day when he was doing, what were he was playing on a lot of TV shows. You can look him up, but I want to say Smokey and the Bandit, but wasn't that BJ and the Bear? Those kind of shows, Dukes of Hazzard. If the guys back then, if they were playing mandolin, they would tune it like a guitar so they could sight read really fast. But all the really cool parts of playing mandolin go away when I have to not tilt my head back too much because I'm pinching a nerve on my neck. Let me see if I can raise my chair. Nope, it's as high as it goes. All right, it's all right. It's just I got a pinched nerve in my neck that's bugging me. But he's really good. I always keep instruments in the tuning they're supposed to be in. So, but I feel like that's going to keep my brain working longer in my life as I hesitate in my voice, in my talking. Happy Monday, David. Let's see. You've got mad vertigo. Oh no. Do you have earwax that has gotten too close to your eardrum? Alex's girlfriend had that happen to her. She had to go to the hospital and they took it out and it was like, boom, all better. But she had vertigo. She couldn't stand up. So I don't know. Maybe see if how's your hearing in both ears? Check your hearing. That's often a cause of vertigo. I work too. No, I'm not retired. No, I'll never retire. I always say I'll retire when the phone stops ringing. But and so if I'm unable to do my job, then I'll retire. Obviously, if I have a stroke or go deaf or something, then obviously I can't do my job. That would be awful. But hopefully, I am not too defined by what I do for a living. Men often do that. That's why men get really depressed oftentimes when they retire because they feel like they don't have a purpose in life. I try to make sure that that's not my sole purpose in life. And therefore, if something were to happen, I don't know. That's pretty long-term thinking, right? Does that make sense? Hey, Holly, good to see you. And Dennis, we got all of it. Everybody. Everybody's in the house. So I haven't started teaching a lesson yet. We're gonna do the blues in G, and we're gonna do walking bass line and play chords at the same time. But I'm gonna keep it really easy. But actually, the thing about what I'm gonna show you is it's not just easy. It's probably what you would do anyway. Even if you were a master guitar player, if you were to do, like a comping bass line chord thing, like I said earlier, like a one-man band kind of thing. You'd probably do the same thing. So what I'm going to show you is something you would do whether you were a full-time musician or a part-time or beginner. So it's not going to be anything super difficult. What is going on? Pee-wee, hold on. Pee Wee, I'm live on my live stream. Where are you?
I'm at home now. Just a
Oh,
quick question. How much a month are you paying for your pool guy?
pool guy's 150.
Okay, all right. Okay. Call me so once you finish.
Say hi, everyone. Say hi to everybody.
Hey,
I thought you were in Australia. I thought you were in Australia.
no, I was in Hong Kong. I just got back yesterday.
Oh, okay, okay. Hong Kong. All right, all right. And then you're back out to
But I was in Australia too. I mean, I was in New
New
Zealand.
Zealand. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody's like, "What are you doing?" All right. Oh, everybody's waving hi. Okay. I'll talk to you later, Pee Wee.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought he was like calling me from overseas because they were just he was just they went to Hawaii and did a show, and then they went to New Zealand and did shows. And the funniest video I've ever seen on his Instagram was Pee Wee coming out of Frodo's house and then going back in like, what? Nope, closing the door. And it was like the funny because they went to Hobbiton, and so Pee Wee and Michigo are Pee Wee's the bass player and Michigo's the keyboard player at my church, and her daughter is Judith Hill, who's a singer, and she's touring. They're in the middle of a bunch of touring, so because we're coming up on Easter week and they're uh, they're going to be out of town, so we actually have to have subs for Easter. But yeah, they're going to Europe next. So anyway, they were in Hong Kong, and I guess he didn't go to. I thought they were going to Australia, but I was. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Dan. Yeah, Dan, you were there. Yeah, that's Isaias, and Isaias is from Brazil, a great bass player, and he will be generally subbing for Pee Wee. Generally, he's the main sub for Pee Wee when Pee Wee's out of town. So. Um, oh, you got home a little early. Okay. Oh, that's right. Oh, you've moved. Oh, you have now. You've changed your clocks. I didn't. I don't know who does that and who doesn't. Some places don't do it. I told you about the story about growing up in Indiana. We didn't change our clocks. When I moved to California, the clocks changed in the spring, and I was an hour late for work. And they said, "You're late. Did you forget to change your clock?" And I said, "What?" They said, did you forget to change the clock? It's how am I an hour late? It's 9 o'clock. They said, it's 10 o'clock. It's not 10 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. And they said, what are you, insane? It's 10 o'clock. You're supposed to move your clock. And I went, I'd never heard of that. Indiana never did it. Where I lived in Indiana, we never did it. And they didn't believe me. They were going to fire me. And there was no Google back then. It was a record store I got a job at when I first moved here because I just wanted to make sure I had some income. I didn't want to go through my savings the first year, and they yeah, somebody corroborated my story. So yeah, Indiana changes them now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But when I lived there growing up, we didn't do that. So it was a kind of thing I had to get used to. What we did do, though, I mean, I was aware that it was happening because, primetime television is 8 to 11 p.m. Primetime television. Brady Bunch and all those shows. And in the winter, in the spring and the fall or whatever, that'd be 8 to 9. But in the summer, it would be 7 to 10. Like everything would move up, I think, or did it go the other way around? I can't. No, yeah, that was the way it was. And so I'm like all the times on the national TV shows moved. So we went from Eastern time zone to Central time zone. So that's how, it was like, that's what's always funny too when they, remember they used to always say Eastern time and Central time, and they still do that, but for sporting events and things. But they would do that for prime time. Prime time was different in Chicago than it was in New York, and so we just went back and forth every year. So all right, I think they're getting rid of it, and it's not. They didn't have it because of the farmers. The farmers are kind of mad about it. They don't like it. I always blamed the farmers, but apparently it was because during World War I, they did it to save electricity. And we were trying to conserve electricity. I don't know, for factories or something to build stuff. I don't know. But electricity was a fairly new thing back then. now in California they say don't charge your electric cars overnight. It's like, wait, when am I supposed to charge it? It's like, oh my gosh. They mandate that we buy electric cars and then they don't let us charge them. That's like, okay. All right, so what we're gonna do? Okay. Oh, here's the start of the lesson. Boom, boom. I will never remember that I'm doing that. Also, next week I won't be. Next week I won't be here. So, or I won't be able to do a lesson at all next week. I don't think I'll be able to do one. So, the whole week is filling up, and potentially next week, and because of Easter stuff, and I've got some other work that's coming up, and then. But also, there's something exciting that might happen. I got an email yesterday that kind of like blew my socks off, and so it will affect the channel. And but I can't tell you what it is. I don't want to say anything. I want it to happen, and then I'll say something. Okay. But you'll know it. You will know it happened. So, and it will definitely be good for the channel. All right. So let's see so the lesson we're going to do blues in G. All right. Now there's three in a basic blues. It's also called, sometimes can be simplified by saying it's a 1-4-5 progression. But the chords aren't in that order. But those are the three chords that are in a blues progression. Very simple blues progression. You can make it more complex than that. But basically, a blues progression could be as simple as G7, C7, G7. Remember, 12 bars, so it's kind of a weird, it's not 4, 8, or 16. It's 12 bars, so it's a little bit weird, a little hard to keep track of. The 5 chord, D7, to the 4 chord, to the 1 chord, to the 5 chord. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write out in Roman numerals. I'll write out a little 12-bar thing so you can see what's going on. Okay, and I will make it not a horribly complex, because you can really simplify the blues progression. I won't make it super complex, but so it's going to be basically 1. And then 4, and 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 5. I think that does it. All right, let me see what that looks like. If I don't have to put bar lines in there, I don't know. If that I could do numbers instead. Numbers might be better, huh? Let me change. Let me get rid of that. All right, I can just edit it. That makes more sense. All right. So it's 1, 4, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 5. Total of 12 numbers, because each one of those represents 4 beats. Okay. I don't like the look of that either, but you know what? I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to edit and put a space in between every 4th. Just so you can see so you can see that it's 12 bars. So 1 to 4 to 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 5. And the 5 really loves to go back to the 1. All right, so in the key of G, the 1 is a G, and if we go up the G scale, if we make a G scale, we don't even have to go all the way through to the end of a G scale. If we just do the first 5 notes, we get 4 and 5 in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to make this a little smaller. This is just for reference. That's just so we have it handy there. So when I'm talking and I'm mentioning where we are, you don't get too lost in the progression. Okay, so we have the 1 chord is G. And then we go up 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's the 4 chord, it's going to be C, and then 5 is the next note, D. And that would be true in any key. If we were in A flat, it would be A flat, D flat, E flat would be 1, 4, 5. In the key of A, A, D, and E would be 1, 4, 5. Okay. Oh, my neck. All right. So, all right. So I'm going to show you a 2-note chord for each of these chords, and we've talked about this before. So if I take that G Mixolydian scale, okay, don't worry, there won't be a quiz on that. But if I take the G Mixolydian scale, we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, let me show you how to play that in second position, which means our first finger is assigned the second fret. All right, because we might move it around to make our to discover our harmony. Okay, so put your second finger on G, on the bottom string, 3rd fret, and then reach out with your pinky and get that. You know, it's fine. You don't need to hold that down to get this. Just go over there with your pinky, 5th fret, and there's your A, and then go to B. Hey, Alan. Hey, AJ, what's going on? Congratulations. I deserve a week off. Thank you, Gary. Well, it won't be a week off. It just means I can't be with you because I'll be working my you know what off. Okay, there's B right there, 2nd fret, 5th string, 3rd fret. All right, is C, and then 5th fret, the pinky again, and then that same thing. I'm just going to show you this much of the scale. Okay, that's all. I just need an octave of the scale. 2nd fret on the 4th string, 3rd fret, and then 5th fret. So I'm going to tell you fingers here. We're going to 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. Okay, that's, and then backwards, 4, 2, 1, 4, 2, 1, 4, 1. Excuse me. That's a Mixolydian scale. Okay, and basically, just so you know, it's a major scale, but you take that 7th note and take it down a fret. See, a major scale is the do, re, mi scale. It sounds like this. Right? But that doesn't work very well over a 7th chord. And it's not how you would invent a 7th chord. Okay? We need a Mixolydian scale to start. Okay. So what do we have? We have 8 notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but also that's the 1. It's the same note. Those are both G's. Okay. So we'll count up 1. There's the 1. And then the 3 is here. Remember, we're taking every other letter to create a 7th chord. Every other letter. G, skip A. B, skip C. D, skip E, and F. And right there, that's a little bit of a walking bass line right there. Okay, so we may incorporate that. We're definitely going to incorporate the triad. The first 3 notes of that. So the first 3 notes, the G, B, D, that would be called a triad. And in this case, it's a major triad. But if we go one more third up, go up one more, skip the E, go to F, that's called a third. D to F is a third. Again, no quiz on that, so don't worry. We end up with a G7th. That would be, you could call that a G7th arpeggio. People say, hey, can you show us arpeggios? Those are arpeggios where you play a chord 1 note at a time. Easy on, fairly easy on piano because it replicates itself every octave. It's the same thing. So if you ever played piano and you found a C chord, you can go C, E, G, C, G, C, G. You can just go like crazy on it. I don't have a piano up right now, do I? Oh, I do have a piano right here. So yeah, it's like, it's kind of easy to be Liberace on the piano. You can do this. You just keep doing the same thing every octave. On the guitar, it's just not that easy. It doesn't lay down like that. So, and that's fine. It's just a different instrument. Okay, so we so those are the 4 notes that are in a G chord. Okay, G, G, B, D, F. Remember that. G, B, D, F. And it's the 1, 3, 5, 7. All right. Now, if we go up to C, okay, so we go G, A, B, C, and do that same scale. Remember, it was fingering wise, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. 4-2-1, 4-2-1, 4-2. And that's a C mixolydian scale. No quiz, don't worry, you're not going to need to know that. But if we take every other note in that scale, we get C, E, G, B flat. Okay? And so C is the root, E is the third, G is the fifth of the chord, and that B flat is the seventh of the chord. So we end up with a C7 arpeggio. Okay, if we go up 2 frets and do that same thing, we get a D7 arpeggio. D, F sharp, A, and C. Now you don't need to necessarily know the names of that, because it's going to be so insanely simple that you won't really need to know the names of the notes and the chords, although I always love it when you do know that, right? Part of the reason I always say, hey, you should learn your fretboard is so that you can start to discover these things organically when you're playing with friends. You know, the best way to learn something is super organically, like, oh, wait, Tom talked about the C7 chord having a B flat and an E and a G. And wait, when I played, oh yeah, there's the B flat and there's, oh, yeah, as you learn those kind of things start to reveal themselves as you learn your fretboard, and as you in cahoots with that, you learn music theory, and pretty soon you've got a real nice, ability to kind of communicate with others, communicate what you're doing to others, but also be able to interpret what other people are doing onto your fretboard. It just helps. Music reading, not as critical. If you wanted to be a professional musician, a professional guitar player, yeah, I say go ahead and learn how to read music, because the hard part is keeping that up. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, every major scale has a relative mixolydian scale. If you count up 5 notes in a major scale, you end up with its relative mixolydian scale. But see, that's the thing about the blues scale. The blues, okay? The blues isn't really like a G blues isn't really in the key of G. It's G mixolydian, but the very next chord is a C7, which is the 5 chord in the key of F. So you could say the G7 is the 5 chord in the key of C. You could say when you're playing the 1 chord, you're playing in the key of C. When you're playing the 4 chord, you're playing in the key of F. You can't think that way with the blues. You just kind of got to think, okay, I'm in G blues, and just kind of start with the G minor pentatonic scale, add a blues note, then maybe go to the mixolydian scale. Maybe you can do a major blues or a major's pentatonic scale, or a major pentatonic scale with a minor third. Those kind of things. But yeah, that's right, Gary. So you're right. But if you can create a mixolydian scale if you take any major scale, like Gary's saying here, and lower the 7th note a half step down. All right, and that will turn that major scale into a mixolydian scale. And that's a great way to think about it, because it's almost easier than trying to learn the formula for a mixolydian scale and try to make it. You just go, hey, I know a major scale. Well, just flat the 7th, and boom, there you go, mixolydian. All right, but I'm only showing you that as a foundational thing, so that we can learn the notes in the chords, which I'll go ahead and type in so we have it. I'll add another text thing here so we can. Okay, let's see. So the 1 is going to be G7, which is G, B, D, F. All right. The 4 is going to be C7, which is C, E, G, B flat. And there is no quiz. You don't need to memorize this. Okay, don't worry about it. I'm just going to reference it. I want it on the screen so I can reference it and you go, oh, okay. You can go, oh, that makes sense. All right. But I am going to ask you a question here in a second, and I know some of you will know this. Sorry, my brain. All right. I got to make it small. And I'll put it right here like that, okay? That makes the most sense. Let's get rid of that face. Look at that hair. Look at that hair. I went to Starbucks with this hair. I think they think I'm a mad scientist. I really do. I walk into Starbucks and they're like, it's funny. I'm like Norm in Cheers. Everybody yells. All the girls behind the counter yell, Tom, when I walk in the door. And the funny thing is the Starbucks right next to a high school. So I've been in there when there've been over 100 high school kids in that Starbucks. And they're just sitting there. The girls are all doing their makeup on the tables and stuff like that. And the guys are just talking and they're getting their coffees and their breakfast or whatever. And it's just pretty funny. I like the energy. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to make, we're going to make some 2-note chords. All right. We're going to take 2 notes from each of those, the G7, the C7, and the D7, and we're going to create 3 different 2-note chords that will do all we need to do to imply, okay, to imply a G7, a C7, and a D7. All right, okay. So I'm going to ask you a question. Some of you are going to know this, and some of you are not going to know this. But in G7, what notes are the guide tones? The guide tones. G-U... G-U-D. I want to know which of these. So in that G, B, D, F, what are the guide tones? And the guide tones positionally will be the same for all 3 chords, meaning it'll be the same notes. It won't be the same names of notes, but it'll be the same tones relative to the root. All right? Yeah, not a power chord. Power chord is the root and the 5th, but those are 2 notes. And you can totally imply. I could do blues with power chords. Exactly, Sam. I knew Sam knew it. I mean, when you probably first learned the blues, you probably did do it with power chords or something. It sounds like the blues. See, look at our progression numbers down there. 5. Okay. All right. So yes, Steve Barry. Yes, it's B and F, and Sam, you were right. It's the 3rd and the 7th. So remember when we made these chords here, these 7th chords, I said 1, 3, 5, and 7. All right. So the first note is the 1, the second note is the 3, the third note is the 5, and the 4th note is the 7. That's hard to say. It's like a tongue twister, a brain twister. So the second note and the 4th note in these 7th chords are the guide tones. All right? And that's all you need, especially if you have a bass player and you don't have a bass player, because you're going to be the bass player. Okay, so you're the bass player and the guitar player in this scenario. All right, and we're gonna start with the guitar part, and we're gonna keep it that way. Now, it's not gonna be this complex. I'm just gonna use my index and my middle finger on my right hand to play, and I'm gonna play only the middle 2 strings on the guitar. Okay, so the D string and the G string are only 2 strings I'm playing. All right. So I'm going to play it like that, because we're basically going to, your fingers are going to be the guitar and the thumb is going to be the bass, ultimately. All right. So the guide tones of the G chord are F and B. Well, if I look for an F and B on the middle 2 strings, they'd be right here. So speaking of you only using your index and middle finger, you can use your index and middle finger here. And so check this out. I'm on the 3rd fret, which is F, and I'm on the 4th fret on the 3rd string, and that is B. So this is our 7th. So we're playing our 7th below our 3rd, and the 3rd's on top. Doesn't matter what order, it has nothing to do with it. Okay. Hit 4 of those. So see what I'm doing? I'm grabbing with my fingers here. Boom. And notice I'm kind of muting. You can do that, but I'm kind of letting the strings. I'm not taking my fingers off the strings. I'm just letting the strings come off the fret. So my fingers end up deadening the note. So it's short. Okay? And that's essentially a G7 chord. If I had a bass player, he'd be playing a G note on the bottom. So now it definitely sounds like Fa-T and a dominant, right? They are notes that want to resolve. But in blues, they don't. Part of the charm and the uniqueness of the blues, it doesn't really obey any music theory rules, because G7 wants to go to a C chord. This F wants to go down to E. This B natural wants to go up to C. Right? So that G wants to resolve, but we ain't doing it. Okay? So this is the 1 chord. Okay? So when you see the number 1 down here, over here, right here, boom. Okay? We're going to play this every time. We're going to do 4 of those for every one of those 1s. Each number here represents 4 beats. So this is 4 bars, then there's 4 bars, and there's 4 bars. 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12. Therefore, it's a 12-bar blues. And this is a typical 12-bar blues kind of structure. All right? So here's the 1 chord. Okay. The 4 chord is C7. All right? The guide tones for C7, not C and not G. Those are the root and the 5th. We want the 3rd and the 7th. That would be E and B flat. Okay, well, okay, that means we can go up here. See, nope, we don't need to do that. The beauty of this is, here's the G7 implied with 2 notes, guide tones, remember? So the 3rd and 7th. Well, guess what? If I slide this down 1 fret, we've done this before, now I've got C7. So I have the E, which is the 3rd, and I have the B flat. Now the 3rd's on the bottom and the 7th's on top. They reversed roles. Isn't that cool? Hey, or what's that? I don't know what that is. Mine. Oh. Yeah, my 2 index fingers. Somebody added a finger to my hand on one of my photos. It made it look like I was a kind of a monster, like I got like a superhero thing. I have a superhero backstory. Oh, you can't. Well, that works out then. If you can't hold a pick, then this is going to work out. You should be able to grab something. If you don't have an index finger, you can grab with your middle 2 finger, your ring and middle finger. But so here's G. Down a fret is C. Hit 4 of those, and then go back up to G, and now we have to hit 8 of these. Because remember, each number represents 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're going back to the 4 chord. Go down a fret back to C. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So 8 of those to represent those 2 4s, and then back up to the 3rd fret to play the F and the B, which are the 7th and 3rd of the G7 chord. I'm going to keep saying things, okay? Because eventually, like, wait, oh, I understand now. Okay, and I'm going to go up 1 fret, and there's my D7 chord right there. Isn't that cool? And that's the 5 chord. D7 is the 5. Here's our F sharp, which is our 3rd, and here's our C, which is the 7th. So if you look at the chord tones there, D, F sharp, A, C, the guide tones are the 3rd and the 7th, the F sharp and the C. And then back down to C. So we have to go down 2 frets. And then up a fret to C, A, I'm sorry, up to the G7 chord. And then up 1 more fret to the D chord. Okay, so I'm not going to play 4 strums. I'm just going to tell you, okay, play that. There's the G7. Go down a fret, C7. Back up to G. Hit it again. Back down to C, which is the 4 chord. Hit it again. Back up to G, the 3rd fret, right there. Hit that twice. And then up to up a fret for the 5 chord. 1 time. Down 2 frets. C chord. 1 chord. Back to the 5. All right. Here we go. I'm going to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, down a fret. 2, 3, up a fret. 2, 3, stay there. 2, down a fret for the 4 chord. 2, 3, stay there. 2, 3, back up a fret. 2, 3, 4. Maybe try to keep your pinky and 3rd finger out like this, like you're drinking high tea in Britain. And then down to there, up to the 3rd fret here for the G, back up to the 4th fret for the D G7, and then we're at the top. The only reason to keep your fingers out there is just to have them ready. It's good finger discipline. Sorry, I'm looking at my hands and not looking at the camera. Back to the 1, okay, to the 5, up a fret, down 2 frets, up 1 fret, up 1 more fret. All right. Now, here's the thing. We're only going to hit 1 beat for every bar with the chord, okay? And we're not going to hit it on 1, 2, the beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, or beat 4. We're going to hit it on the and of 1, and we're going to swing it, and I'm going to show you how to do that. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and just hit it once and make it short, okay? So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, down to C, 4, 2, 3, back to G, hit it again, 3, 4, 2, back down to C, okay, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, back to C, wait, did I get, oh no, sorry, back to G, 2, 3, up a fret, 5 chord, 2, down 2 frets, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Almost wish Lena was here. I don't see Lena. I think she would have liked this lesson. Okay. So again, it's pretty simple because we're just using these 2 fingers to make all 3 chords, and we're only playing the guide tones because that's all you really need. The 5th is always superfluous. I mean, the 5th is great in rock, but you don't. If you're looking for notes to get rid of to make something simpler, you can almost always get rid of the 5th unless it's an altered 5th. Okay, if it's a G7 flat 5 or G7 sharp 5 or something like that with a sharp 5 or flat 5, if it's in the name of the chord, you got to put it in there. And you know, if it says G7 flat 5, you know, I would do something like that, but there's a G in it, and I'm like telling you to get rid of the root. Well, the only reason I'm telling you to get rid of the root sometimes is because if you have a bass player's going to play the root, so it's still in the chord. You just don't have to play it. But yeah, so the only time you have to have a 5, the 5 tone of a chord, is when it's being altered. The rest of the time, you can always have a 5. It doesn't matter. 5 is great. I love the sound of the 5. You know, when I play a G9 chord, that's a great sound. You know, having that. The 5 is you don't need to get rid of it. It's just you don't need it. And so what we did was we simplified 4-note chords down to 2 notes by getting rid of the 5th and letting the bass player take care of the 1. All right. So what we just did just now was we played staccato or short little dyads. You can call them dyads. Triads are 3 notes, right? That's a triad. A dyad would just be 2 notes. So we're technically playing what's called dyads. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm going to count 1 and 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1. Hi, Catherine. 2, 3, 4, 1 and. See, I'm clapping on the and of 1. All right. If we were to break down 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, those are quarter notes. If we were to break them down to 8th notes, we'd go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so what we want to do is we want to put that basically is what we're going to do. Let's see. So we can do something different on the last bar, but that's basically what we're going to try to get to do something like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to come up with multiple yes, G Mixolydian would be C Ionian starting on the 5, exactly, the 5th note. If that helps you. Some people that might just confuse. Some people might just be confused by that. But if it helps you, then awesome. All right, let's see. Oh, good. Okay. One piece of business taken care of. I got to register for something, but all right. NAMM show stuff. And I'm not even sure if I'm going to go yet or not, but I want to get the badge just in case. It's such a... I mean, the NAMM show was something I wanted to do so bad when I couldn't go. And then for the first 10 or 15 times, it was fun. And then it was fun because I brought Emma one year, and I brought Alex and Jack, and I brought Alex's band, and I brought Alex every year. And so it's kind of a father-son time. So that's fun. And Alex is not going to be at a booth this year. So if we go together, we'll be able to hang out the whole time, which will be fun. So, okay. Now, the scale stuff that they're talking about helps us create these chords, these 7th chords, but we're not really talking about soloing today. All right, so we got the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. 1, okay, just those 2 notes at the 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 4th fret. So this implies a G7 chord, this implies a C7 chord, and this implies the D7 chord. 1, 4, 5. 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 4, 4, 4, 1. And just so you can practice that. We talked about the blues. We did a whole series on the blues, and the number one thing you want to get down is to be able to play a blues progression 100 times in a row without messing up. Because invariably, and I'm just telling you because I was guilty of this, invariably, I would turn things around too fast. I would do an 11-bar blues, or I'd do a 13-bar blues, or I'd do a 12.5-bar blues, or I'd do an 11.5-bar blues. And no one's going to want to jam with you if you can't play the blues correct and laid out in some 12-bar form. Everybody's going to be like, okay, well, whatever, let's do a different song or something. They'll be like, yeah, because they thought you were going to the 1 chord and you go to the 5 chord. It's like, what are you doing? You got to stay on the 1 chord for another 2 bars. So that kind of thing. NAMM. Yeah, NAMM show is the National Association of Music Merchants. And I haven't gone since COVID. I got sick after the 2021 because everybody at NAMM had COVID, but we didn't know it. We didn't even know what COVID was then. And so everybody was sick afterwards. We're all sharing instruments, and about a fourth of the participants are coming from China. And so it's the largest convention west of the Mississippi every year. But then they didn't do it in 2021, and then in 2022 they did it in June. Normally it's in January. But it's in April this year. Next year it'll be in January. They're slowly moving it back to where it was. So next year it'll be in January, which is crazy because usually, like I said, NAMM is always funny because every year at NAMM it would be like 85 degrees, and everybody that comes from all over the world is like, oh, I got to move to LA. January and it's 85. They're all like, yeah, I could do this. Yeah, Tim Pierce is always there. I've seen Tim there many times. Yeah. It's not technically open to the public. You have to have, I did a video on this. You generally have to have a connection of some kind. Elixir Strings is giving me an Alex passes. Alex is an Elixir artist as well. I've gotten them from Taylor before. I've gotten them from Voodoo Lab, Lexicon, Roland. I mean, just lately, like the last 10 or 15 years, I've gotten them from Elixir. But usually it's because I do some kind of work for them. And then, what reminder? What did Bob say? I missed that. Yeah, double stops. Sam, you can call them that. Yeah, you can call those double stops. Yeah, sure. Now, just as an interesting observation, if you want, you can play this progression, the same progression up here. Here would be the 1 chord, the 4 chord. Okay, and the thing about that is that here we had the 7th on the bottom and the 3rd on top, and then when we went to the 4 chord, we had the 3rd on the bottom and 7th on top. So it's the opposite up here. If I play this one, and now this is a G7 with a 3rd on the bottom, 7th on top. Don't worry about it, no quiz. Okay, all right. Now, here's another thing we have to think about for doing walking lines. Okay, we're gonna learn where the roots are first off for those 3 chords, where we're gonna play. I would prefer not to use any open strings, because that way, if you learn this, if you get it down, it's hard. I mean, but if you learn it without open strings, then it's completely movable, like any chord would be. Any chord with no open strings is a movable chord, and essentially you've learned 12 chords. So if we can learn, I'm going to probably have open strings in here, but I'm not going to have tab or anything like this for this, because what you're going to do is you're going to create. I'm going to teach you how to do it, and then you're going to come up with your own. You're going to try to work on it, and you can separate these two things. You don't have to play the guitar and the bass at the same time right away. You've already played the guitar part, so you already know what's happening in guitar. And like I said, I'm just going to hit 1 G chord, 2, 3, 4 C chord, 2, 3, 4. But I'm actually going to move that over from, instead of being on the downbeat, I'm going to move it to the end of 1 to be a response to the bass note, like that. And then eventually you can, if you want to add it on the end of 1 and the end of 3, like, see, you know, like that. You know, it takes more coordination to do that than I'm not. In that, I would probably have to work up, but I can kind of fake it. So here's, I'm going to show you where the 3 roots are. Real simple. Okay, here's the G root, right? And then when we go to the 4 chord, there's C, and then 1. And then hit 1 again, and then go to the 4, hit it again. And so on every downbeat, we're going to try to want to be on the root of the chord, which is the notes we're playing right now. The G here for the 1 chord. That's the 5 chord. Go up to D right here. 2, 3, 4, down to 4, which is the C, and then to the root, 1, and to the 5 chord, D. All right? So the goal is to try to 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, again. Okay, now the second group of 4 there, we're on the 4 chord, 4, which is the C, again with the 4 chord, which is C, to the 1 chord, which is G, to, again with a G chord, again with, okay, and now D chord, 5, 2, 3, to the 4 chord, 2, 3, to the 1 chord. Again, if you want, you can keep your fingers out and add a little layer of extra learning if you want. Keep your fingers like hovered over the fretboard when you do that. I'm just using my first finger to play these roots, okay? So what we want to do is we want to make sure we're at those roots at those moments, okay? Every time the chord changes at the downbeat, or downbeat would be beat 1 of every bar of the 12 bars. On beat 1, we want to be on the root. We want to hit the root, okay? So now if I were to do the bass chord thing for each of those, and just using the root on 1 and then the chord on the end of 1, it would sound like this, which is cool. 3, 4. Oh, is it Hanukkah? it's Passover. Is it Passover, Joseph? 3, 4, 2. Hey, Den. 3, 4. Okay. So what I did there was I played the bass note, the 1 in this case, and then I played the 1 chord, G, like that. And I did the C. And I'm having to change how I finger things to do it. But I'm not letting those notes ring out. So you don't have to hold your fingers down there. As soon as you do that chord, you can take the hand off and get those fingers in place to do other things. In this case, that's it. Okay, but what I'm trying to do as we get into this, okay, so I'm trying to get to every one of those root notes chromatically. What does that mean? That means I want to be either on beat 4, right before I go to that beat 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so we've already hit the root on every one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. I'm hitting the roots of the chords on 1, 1, 2. G again. Now the C note. D, 4, C. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Go to the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the root. 2 back up to the 5. Okay. What I'm trying to do is on beat 4, I'm trying to hit a note that's 1 fret below or 1 fret above the root note that I'm going to land on that next bar. So for example, on the G, I got 4 beats to get to the C. And so I'm trying to do something that, right there. If do that with me, go hit this note. We can do this all with our first finger. It doesn't matter. Hit that G. Okay, that's beat 1. Hit the open A. There's beat 2. Hit the B flat. Doesn't matter if it's not in the chord. We're just walking. You can hit every single note when you're doing a bass player. Don't need to necessarily worry about what note you're hitting. You just want to land on the root in the appropriate amount of time. You don't want to. You see, if I went, I would be too early to that C note. If I went up the G scale, G, A, B, C. See, that's only 3 notes. I need 4 notes. I need 4 beats to get to that C chord. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the G, A, use the B flat as a passing tone from the A to the B flat, and then B flat, and lo and behold, I'm on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm a half step below C. So talking about leading chords, talk about, wanting tension of that G7, wanting to resolve to C major, really pretty, right? In classical, music theory, blues ignores all that. Blues goes from this G to this C. There's no resolution there. So, I mean, there's a bit of a resolution, but not really, because it's resolution to more tension to tension. All right, but we're hitting that B note, and we're doing and the bass player's doing the resolution. See, because bass player's only playing 1 note, so he can. So watch. All right, now what becomes the issue is, how do we finger this? Like what fingers are we going to use to do the bass and the chord? All right, so in this case, I'm using my first finger to get that G note, and then I'm going to use my second and third finger to get the F and the B. The F and B. Sounds like I'm going to have to make this PG-13 now, right? A parental warning, F and B. Yeah, we're on daylight savings time. Yeah. Yeah, so did somebody say? Oh, that's a bummer, Joseph. Yeah, my hands are a little numb right now because of my pinched nerve on my neck. It happens. It's from looking up. I can't look up for any length of time, or I pinch the nerve. And I can take, if I take, the only over-the-counter that works is Aleve. But you don't really want to take that very often because it's hard on your stomach. Now, I've never had stomach issues, but I may take an Aleve. I got to do a lot of work today, which means I shouldn't go too much longer. But that's anyway. All right. So let me show you the fingering on this. G, first finger on the third fret of the sixth string, and I'm hitting the guide tones here with the second and third finger, F and B, like that. If you want to just practice that. Again, everything should be short. Staccato, short. And then all I'm doing is hitting the open A, first fret, second fret, and now I can't go to the C with my first finger because I need this note and this note as an answer. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to my second finger, and then I'm going to play the guide tones with these two fingers, okay, with my first and third finger, okay. So here's, so it requires, if you're going to do it on the fly, it requires you to be a Boy Scout, okay? You got to be prepared. It's a preparation, preparation H, this is preparation G, to preparation C. You have to kind of think about, how am I going to do this before you do it? Now that, once you've done that, like once you've calculated the best way to finger something for that moment, you'll probably always do it that way, okay? You only have to do the calculation once if you find the right way. But I could go to my second finger right away if I wanted. It doesn't go first finger, second finger, okay? Again, now I'm on C, and my next chord is the 1 chord. So whenever I'm changing chords, I want to try to go, so that I'm going chromatically to the next root note. Okay, so the next root note, I'm on the 4 chord. Okay, right here. If you look down here on this, so I'm on, where is it? 1. Now we're on the C chord, the 4 chord. I want to go. The next chord is the 1 chord again, the G. So we're going to this. And I'm going to hit the bass note and the chord. And then in this case, I'm going to do pretty much the exact thing. I mean, not the exact thing, but it's going to feel like the same thing that I did with the A going up the string. So here's what's happening. I'm going to hit the C chord. I'm going to hit the low E. And if I was on D flat, I would just go down to F like that, okay? So if I'd done this maybe in the key of A, we'd be on the 4. We could have avoided open strings. It's okay to have open strings as long as you know that if you change keys, you're going to have to fret that note. You can't go like in the key of A flat. You can't go. It won't sound quite right. Okay, but that's a C chord. Well, what's the third of C? Well, if you look down here at this, over here, over here, I can never get this right. It's like backwards. Okay. If you look at that, the third is E. 1, 3, 5, 7 is what we have there, okay? Not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 3, 5, 7. So the 3 is the E. Well, that's an E string. So you're hitting the third. So you're going C, E, and then we're just going to go F, F sharp, G, and create a beautiful chromatic, really climbing. And again, F sharp is not in the key of a C. But it's basically, if I take that C 7 chord, the guide tones for C, and put an F sharp underneath it, that becomes an F sharp 7 chord, believe it or not. It's the same exact chord. But those guide tones for the C chord are the same as the guide tones for an F sharp 7 chord. Tritone away, okay? No quiz on this, don't worry. But if I wanted to, like that, I could put another chord hit on the and a 4, which is fun. You hear that? I'm doing another one of these. Okay, the kind of the reggae chord hit on the end of the bar, and of the beat. Sorry. You could even do something like. But we're not going to go that complex. We're just going to have one chord per bar. And now we're back to G. Now we got, okay, but now we've got 2 bars of G. So we have to find something that we can do. And so here's the thing. You want to find multiple ways to go from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, multiple ways to go from the 4 chord to the 1 chord, multiple ways to go from the 1 chord to the 5 chord, multiple ways of going from the 5 to the 1. And also from the, now in this blues example, we never go 4 to 5. Doesn't mean we don't need to learn a way or figure out a way to do that. But we do go from 5 to 4. So it'd be good to have like a, have different ways of getting there. So if you, because you don't want to do the same bass line every single time. You want to mix it up. So so what I'm going to do is, so the way we went from G to C the first time, see that? Right? So the bass line was G, A, B flat, B, chromatic up to C. Again, nice strong leading, okay? Check this out. I can do G, B, D, D flat, C, right? I came at it from the other direction. I did a G major triad, or the first 3 notes of the G7 arpeggio, G, B, D, G, B, D, D flat, which leads chromatically down to C. Okay, listen to that one. Isn't that cool? So again, now we have 2 ways to get from G to C. Okay, or we could do this one. Okay, let's see if I can come up with another way. I could do something like that. So I went G, F, G, B, C. So why did I do that? Well, I'm kind of playing the G7 arpeggio. I'm playing the root, the 7th, back to the root to the 3rd. I just everything but the 5th. But again, I want to try to make that chromatic movement. I could also go like that. Let's see. That would be too many notes. I'm just trying to keep it to 4 notes. Let's see. What else could I do? That's kind of out, but that's kind of fun. So what I did there was I played the G, and I went to B flat. So I'm undercutting the 3rd, B, and I go up to D flat, which is technically a flat 5, and into the C. So G, B flat, B. Okay, so we have, oops. What was the other one? Oh, yeah. So that way you have multiple ways of doing it. So as you're comping someone trying to solo or sing or whatever, you're not doing the same. You're not memorizing a pattern necessarily. You're one way to play all 12 bars. You're memorizing multiple ways of getting from the 1 chord to the 4 chord. Okay, now we need some ways to get from the 4 chord to the 1 chord. So I might not have anything for you at the end of this where you were playing the whole thing one way for you to memorize, because that's kind of would almost defeat the purpose. The purpose is for you to create so that you do your own. And again, try to keep it the roadmap the same. Now, what do you do? Like we have 3 spots where we have the same chord for 2 bars. If we look in that first grouping of 4 right here, right there, there's 2 bars of 1, And in the next grouping of 4, we have 2 bars of 4 and 2 bars of 1. So what do we do? Well, in that scenario, you can kind of do like the root 3rd 5th. Or I could go root 3rd 5th 7th. This is another way, although the problem with that one is I can't, well, I could do, that's not very conducive to having a chord in there. But I could do, that, okay? But you're going to need to have a few of those things in your hip pocket. But again, if you can just stick with the root, or you could do like root 5th, you know, or root 5th 6. Or maybe root. I could still do a chromatic thing, going to the G, from the G to the G, something like that. That's kind of cool. I'm in Los Angeles, yeah, Colin. So what I'm doing is I'm playing a G. This is just, again, something if I need to sit on G for 2 bars. I went to the 3rd. I went to the A flat, which is the half step above G, and I went to the half step below G. I surrounded the G, and then I conquered the G. Okay, that's a great little, that's a great trick for soloing. You know, you take the G major triad. It's something Django Reinhardt would do. Because you remember, you only had 2 fingers, so you probably played it something like that. So I have a book that has Django solos fingered for 2 fingers. So it was the guy that transcribed the solos was like trying to figure out how Django played it with 2 fingers, and so he did the fingering both ways. But it's like, whoa. Sometimes I'm like, how did he do that? Especially at the speed, but I'm just surrounding my ultimate tone that I want to go to. I'm just going a half step above and a half step below. You can do the other way around. You can go a half step below and it's a great little trick if you're looking for something to play over a chord. Okay. So, so this, you're going to need some different ways to kind of sit on a chord. And we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, we need some ways to get from the C to the G now, from the 4 to the 1. Again, if you think of it in those terms, 4 to 1, then it's transposable. If you think C to G, no, then you're only going to be in C and G. So the 4 chord is C, and we want to get to the G chord. And that was the first one we did. So I went C, and an E, which is the 3rd of C, right? You can see it right there. The second note in the C7 chord is E. Then F, F sharp, G. Beautiful kind of chromatic way of getting. Very similar to the way we got to C the first time. Okay? Is this making sense? Again, you have 4 beats to get to the note, to the chord. So you don't want to get to the chord early, and you don't want to get to it late. You want to make sure that you hit the downbeat, you hit the root of the chord on every one of those 12 downbeats. Okay, so if it's 12 bars, in those 12 bars, there are 12 downbeats. Now, you don't necessarily have to hit the downbeat on that second bar when it's a double G, or a double C chord, right? So if I'm sitting on G, I could go, I could do something like that. And what I did there was, I did one of the most stereotypical bass lines. Okay, which is G, B, D, E, F. 1, 3, 5, 6, flat 7, 6, 5, 3. Okay, but the beauty of that is the 8th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2. I can play in 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2. But that 8th note is the B, which leads us chromatically to that C. Okay. But what did I do up high? What chord did I play? Well, remember I told you there's 2 places I can play this G. I can play the F and the B, or I can play the B and the F. F B, B F. It's a deal. It's a BF deal. Okay. Okay, so I can do 1 4 1 5 here, and I can do 1 4 1 5 here. It's just the same 2 notes flipped over. It would be an inversion of this. Okay. So when I got up to that D E F, then I have that other guide tones up there. F. Back down to E, D, B, C. Okay, so you're digging this, Christopher? Good, 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 good. I don't know if I mean, how many people do I have? So I have 2. Yeah, it's falling. 23, 24, which isn't bad, If you're getting it, you're having fun. Oh, Liverpool. Hey, Liverpool, what's going on? I've never been to Liverpool. Someday. I've gone through and marked all the places I want to go in Liverpool. I think I could do Liverpool, though, in a day. I don't even know. I mean, I probably would spend the night there. But I would do all the things, I would time it so that I could do the Penny Lane and the Cavern Club and all those kind of things all in one day. But it would be, I actually marked on my Google Maps, I marked where Paul's house was, where Ringo's house was John's house was, and George's house. And I think, was it George and Paul that lived really close to each other? Ringo, of course, never, didn't know them as much in Liverpool as he knew them. I mean, they weren't like childhood friends. But I think it was George and Paul that walked to John's house. And so I thought what I'd do is I'd go to George and Paul's house and then walk from there to John's house. And you have to go through a park. It's kind of a long walk. And they would sometimes take the bus, but sometimes they would walk it. I'm a big Beatles fan. I just love it. It was at 36. Okay. Let me see what the peak was. Yeah, you're right. Yep. Yeah, or I see 35, but my numbers don't always correlate with what you guys see. We got 23 likes. That's awesome. You can always smash that like button. Okay. So again, but you could even just do something like, you could just do a triad 1 3 5 and then back to the 1. You don't need to chromatically get to that note the second time. Sorry, I got to reply to 6. Okay, so what else? Let's see. All right, so we have to get from the 1 to the 4 and the 4 to the 1. So let's see. We had this. I could also go kind of the opposite of the other way. We went chromatically, and then from like three consecutive frets there, or 4 frets like that. We could also go. See what I did there? So I played the C, and then I went up to the B flat, A flat, G. So you can see. So I went C. So that, but instead of going up to this B flat and this A, I just went, hit that B flat there, hit the open A, hit the A flat, and then I'm back to G. Do that. C, B flat, A flat, G. And fingering wise, it just depends on, like, I'm probably always going to want to land on the G chord with my first finger so I can do that. And I'm probably always going to want to land on the C chord with my second finger. And same thing with the D chord. I'm always going to want to land on the D note with my second finger so I can make the dyad, the double stop, the guide tones. So many names for the same stupid thing. For that F sharp and C on the D chord, I'm going to probably want to land with make sure the landing note finger is the C. Now I could do, because I want this note to be short and I want these to be short. If I get caught, if I catch myself, paint myself in a corner, I can still do both. You don't necessarily have to have second finger and then first and third for this. You don't necessarily have to do it that way. You could do it, because you may have enough. If it's a slow blues, you should have time. But every note should be what we call staccato, which means short. Like this, you can play staccato multiple ways, but I can mute with my palm of my right hand, or I can lift up the string. Hold on a second. I forgot. I got a text thing. I got to download some stuff. Let me. Working on a new game. There he is. Let's open this up and okay. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Oh, this is fine. I'm curious what they did for that. Download. All right. Those are old. All right, where's are they downloaded? Huh. Oops, okay, now it is. All right, let me download this one. Oh, I see. Okay, go back here. All right, sorry, just work stuff. Cloud stuff. All right, so we have oh, is this way over your head? I'm sorry, Colin. All right, now you can see in going from bar 8 here, okay, so here's 5, 6, 7, 8, that's the 8th bar. We go from the 1 to the 5 chord, and we also go 1 to 5 right here, 1, 5, and then we go 5, 1, because the last chord right there, right by my coffee cup here, there it is, that is going to go to 1. So we have to be able to get from 1 to 5 and 5, 1. So what are some ways we can get to 5? Well, here's the 1, here's G, and here's 5. There's the D. Well, the most logical one for me is to just go chromatically from the B, go G, B, C, C sharp, D, right? Notice how I got my second finger ready to go here. Got my second finger there, and then that's the most obvious way to go from the 5 to the 1. Okay, so so I went, hit the root, and then I hit the third, B, which is the third of the G7 chord, and then I hit C, C sharp, D. Now I could also maybe do something. That's a little weird. See, but I can't do the, I like that chromatic motion, that one fret motion that really, that C sharp really wants to go to D. See that if I were to put that G chord in there again, the dyad, you really hear that, but you hear this, and that's technically a C sharp 7 chord. C sharp 7 to D7. Let's see, what's another way we can get to? Well, I could go. I run out of notes on the low string, but I go G, and hit F, open E, and then maybe with my second finger get the E flat. Okay, so essentially I did this: G, F, dun, dun, dun. It's very chromatic there. So I went from the root to the seventh, which is F, down to E, E flat, which is chromatically moving to the D7. I wouldn't go up to, I wouldn't do that probably, but I might. Okay. So there's two. Yeah, there's not a whole lot. That's the best way. A good way. I mean, you could do one, like 3, 5, 4, the 6, like you're going. That's kind of like you're doing that. But going instead of, you could even add that chromatic note if you had the time, like that. But you don't have to. You don't have to go chromatic. It's just my little thing to make it even stronger and more logical. And here's the other thing. I've talked about this in the past, but bass players have huge amount of power and huge amount of ability to telegraph. I mean, even if you don't know what chord is next, this bass line tells you what chord's next. And so a good bass player, if he's working with someone who maybe doesn't know what the chord progression is of the song, can tell everybody what's coming up. Probably this. And everybody goes, oh, it's a 4 chord. Okay. Oh, back to the 1, you know. And so a good bass player can telegraph. And that's kind of what I'm doing with these bass lines is I'm really kind of going, okay, I'm trying to make the next chord in the progression as obvious as possible. And that's often for our benefit because, again, like I said, so often people totally mess up the blues. They're trying to play the blues, they're trying to jam with somebody, and they go to the 4 chord, and then they go to the 1 chord. And instead of staying there, they go back to the 1 chord. Now you're off. You skipped the 4th bar of the blues, and you've jumped right to the 5th bar of the blues. And the guy playing thought you were going to be on the person soloing over you thought you were going to be on the 1 chord a little longer, and he's still soloing over the 1 chord, and you went to the 4 chord, and you messed everything up. And they're like, I'm not going to play with you anymore. Well, when you come up with these bass lines, some of it is designed to kind of help you know what's coming next, too. No, I gotta go to the 4. Let's see. Ah, shoot. We're probably gonna have to pick this up next week. But the things you can practice doing is practice finding the ones, the G, the tonic of each of the chords, G, C, and go back to G, hit it again, C, C, and then the 5 chord, the 4 chord, and the 1 chord. And then you can start, if you want to put the chords in there, find those. If you want to do the delay, you know, the stagger or whatever, you practice playing the chord on the and of 1. And then if you want, you can start to try to find some bass lines. Maybe do typewriter, not typewriter tab, but you can just print up some tab paper. And you can write out those lines and go, okay, come up with 4 ways to get from the 1 to the 4, 4 ways to get from the 4 to the 1. Maybe see if you can find 4 fun ways to get from the 1 to the 5. That's the most obvious. That's the next most obvious. Shoot. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a way. And try to get to each one of the chords chromatically. Yeah, it's been a couple. Well, I was 15 minutes late, so it's not been 2 hours. It's been an hour and 45. Yeah, I'm going to be 2 weeks. Yeah, that's right. I'm not going to be here next week. Yes, I will. I will do that. I will do this lesson again next time in 2 weeks. If I feel like I could get away from, okay, lesson ends now. All right. If I can get away from work, it's just there's a lot going on next week, and so we'll see what if I can do something maybe on Tuesday. I'm pretty sure Monday's going to be out. Yeah, Bruce, I think the first 85 were pretty close. That's right. Yeah, you can. I think if you just click on, I think my live stream videos, you can. I think you might be able to sort them oldest to newest or something like that. So if you go to the lesson numbers, these were the COVID lessons. I started doing these when Governor Newsom shut down California. They said, don't leave the house. It's like, really? I'm like, okay. I did leave the house. I went somewhere, and there was all this traffic in Beverly Hills, and I'm like, what's going on? It was all like workers working on houses and stuff like that. They're all the celebrities are all still having their houses worked on. They've left the state, and they're going to their mountain retreats or the Hawaii Islands or whatever. But yeah. So, and then, like I said, there's some, what is this? Oh, okay. There is some cool news, I think. We'll see. Somebody reached out to me yesterday, kind of blew my socks off, and a lot of fun. I think you guys will dig it. It'll be good for the channel. So, but I'm not going to talk about it until it's happened. It may happen next week or the week after, and then I'm not sure what the process is after that. But yeah, so this is it'll be a lot. I think it'll be a lot of fun. All right. So let's see. Oh, no worries, Christopher. Hey, Baraba's here. Sorry, Colin. Yeah, sorry, it's way over your head. I do tend to use music lingo, but like I always say, you just keep listening to it, and you start to pick. It's like a language. If you watch a lot of Spanish TV, you're going to start to pick up words. If you watch a lot of Spanish soap operas, you're going to pick up an interesting set of phrases. But it's kind of the same way. I always use the example of when I was 14 or 15 years old, I got a subscription to Guitar Player magazine. And even though I didn't understand 90% of it, I still read it cover to cover. But the next month I understood, I maybe understood 10% the first one. The next month I maybe understood 12 or 13% of what I read. And every time when I heard him talking about tubes, what's a tube? I'm like, oh, that's a tube. Okay, so now whenever they said tube, I knew what they meant. When they talked about chord charts, I'm like, what's a chord chart? And I was like, oh, now I know what you mean by chord chart. Okay, things like that. So you start to pick up the lingo, and I do try to explain things kind of coming from different directions because there's like 5 or 6 different ways that people learn. I'm a hands-on learner. Is that kinetic? I don't know the terms. Where's Catherine? Catherine knows the terms. She's smart. Holly, I think, is smart. I think. Holly, are you smart? Do you know the terms? The types of learning. Some people are really good at memorizing. That's not me. But they can just memorize dates like crazy. I kind of have to see a timeline, and then I kind of understand the order of things. I'm watching a bunch of videos on World War I right now, and and I'm listening to the Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which is a huge volume, two books of, but it's fascinating to hear all about this and how it all came down and everything. So I feel like, I wasn't a very good student in high school and college, and there were books I had to read in college that I hated, and when I read them on my own, I loved them. So there's something about the way I learn. It's like it's got to be my idea. If you're telling me I have to learn something, I'm like, I don't want to. And my brain just like, I mean, I read Dickens and I hated it. I hated Dickens. I love Dickens now, but I read Dickens when I was in high school and in college. It's just like, I can't get through this. I can't do it. I would, and I do get very sleepy when I read. That's why listening to books is, for me, far superior. But because when I was a kid, I went to a very, very progressive school in Washington, D.C., and they were like phonics for fools. And so instead of learning to read like this, phrases like I do, that's how I read music. I read music like that. I don't have a problem with it. But I learned to read, they did sight reading where they would hold up a card and go, okay, memorize this word. Okay, remember sometimes, and then they'd show always. And, and so I read, I still do. I read like one word at a time like this, and it's exhausting. Like I read 2 pages and I'm asleep. It was a great way to fall asleep at night, but then the light's on, so, so it's like, dang it. But yeah. New language with 3 different alphabets, exactly. Yeah, and actually I'm using different alphabets even here, because you can see over here I'm using the numbers 1 and 4 and 5 for that, but over here I'm using Roman numerals. And Roman numerals I was going to use originally, if you were at the beginning of this video, I used Roman numerals here and it just looked weird. So I changed it to numbers. But these numbers here represent the chord changes in the 12-bar blues. The numbers over here just represent the chords, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. And that's G7, C7, D7. And the notes in those chords are here. All right? That's what and we're talking about walking bass lines. So... Oh, yeah. Sorry, Sadie. Well, if I say twice as many words, you'll hear all of it. Oh, kinesthetic? Is that how you say that? Kinesthetic. Yeah, kinesthetic, auditory, visual. Yeah, my wife's a very visual learner. I'm kinesthetic. I have to take things apart and build them back together. When I was in study hall, I would sit down with a piece of paper and I would write out every possible scale. Like I would go, okay, G Mixolydian scale, and then I'd go, all right, well, what if I flatted the E? So then it would be G, B, D, C. I'm sorry, G, A, B, C, D, E flat, F, G. What is that scale? And it's like, okay, let me play that when I get home. And it was basically a kind of a C harmonic minor scale, but starting on G. And it was like, oh, that's a cool scale. And so I would just sit down and do all the iterations and just kind of go and then play them and listen to them and play them up, get them under my hands and go, yeah, that doesn't sound useful at all. But this one I could totally use. So yeah, that's just how I learned. Yeah, Roman numerals over here on the left and standard numerals on the so. Yeah, no worries, Sadie. Okay, all right. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. I will not see you next week, I don't think, but 2 weeks from today, we'll pick up on this. Okay, we'll keep doing this, and then maybe I'll do a tab. Maybe I'll do a tab of one way to play through this whole progression that you can practice. And the thing is, I've got to go to 1 to 4 and then 1 to 4 twice. So I'll do those different ways. I got to go 1 to 5 twice, and I got to go 4 to 1 twice. So I'll do those. I'll make sure that's not the same way any one time, so that you have at least one way all the way around the 12-bar blues where you can do a walking bass line with a chord on the and of 1. And you can kind of walk your way through the whole progression. And we'll do it in G. So there'll be some open strings. But if you want to take it to the next level, you could move it up a fret, play it in A flat, and then take those open strings and put your first finger on the first fret, and that would be the transposition of that. Okay, you're very welcome, Holly. Thank you so much for being there, Bruce and Dennis. Thank you for Bruce and Holly and Dennis and I are thinking about maybe adding a fourth moderator on the channel, just because sometimes there's been a couple times where it's only been Bruce. I know Dennis, because of the time change, was MIA, and so it makes it a little difficult sometimes when you're over in Europe to join us because of the time change. But I think did he say that they changed now too? So they change also, but not the same day we do, which is just weird. I mean, not that there should be some universal law. I'm not in favor of that, but I just think that we should get rid of daylight savings time. I think we should just stay on daylight savings time. It's basically what this is, daylight savings time. I think we're in now. So anyway, George and Paul were friends. That's right. They lived close together too. John lived with his aunt. George, yeah, and Paul lived with his mom, his parents. Yeah, George too. Ringo, I don't know about. Yeah, Ringo was in a hospital. Like, I think one whole school year he was in a hospital or something. Ringo was one of those like sickling kids, like the kids that was always sick. He was one of those. Isn't that interesting? He's short. He's a little guy. Well, I think they all are shorter than you think. I mean, I've never met any Beatles. I had a chance to meet George many times, and I didn't do it, and I'm kicking myself for it. But yeah, yep, I think that's right. That's right, Gary. Well, and Paul would talk about how if there was a kid that knew a chord they didn't know, they'd get on the bus and go, okay, show me this chord that we don't know. Like that's how they learn like a B7 chord or something like that. And like, okay, I can use that. That'll work. So, all right. God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in a couple weeks, and you guys take care of yourself. In a couple weeks, is that after NAM? No, that's after Easter. So that will be NAM week, I think, that week, which is also a busy week for me. So we'll see what happens. In fact, I may not be able to go that Monday. The thing that I told you about that I can't tell you about, I was asked for some dates, and that was one of the dates I gave. So if that has to happen on Monday, it's going to happen on Monday. But I might be able to. I'll post a notice on Discord, which is the link is up there. You can join for free. I'll put a notice on Discord, hopefully reminding you that I'm not going to be there next week, but also if I'm going to be there the week after. So, but have a great week. Thanks, Dan. Oh, nice. LACC, Los Angeles. Oh, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, classical guitar. It's a great way to learn guitar too. It's so, especially in a classroom setting. Everybody's, you're all beginners, so you're in the same boat. Terms for what? Crystallize and fluid. Oh, terms for what? Crystallize. Yeah.